And in the book I make a lot of examples about myself, right? I got divorced 6 years ago, right? And I am still on the journey of healing.
Sure.
And oftentimes what we do is that after we break up or we leave a marriage, we want to rush into another relationship, right? I mean, I've got a chapter in the book that, and I'm straightforward, I'm saying dating, put your undies back on, because what happens is that you want to rush. And another thing is that
because we're told, Phindile, that to get over one you need to get under one.
no, it doesn't work that way. That's actually a lie. It's like divorce parties. Those are also a lie, right? Because it's a journey. We go through a journey of acceptance, first of all, because oftentimes when we leave these marriages, when we leave our relationships, we haven't truly accepted what actually happened. We haven't dealt with our own faults that contributed to the breaking down of that relationship or marriage. We also haven't really come into terms with the fact that we've actually lost somebody that we really loved. Regardless of whether they cheated on you or whatever it is that they did to you, you still loved that person. And there's a mourning period in which one needs to go through. We always think that mourning is only about losing somebody to death. But you have to mourn somebody who's still walking the earth as well.
And that one, it's a lot harder because the person is alive.
Absolutely.
And you kind of do have access to them. And it took me about 3 years to recover from the divorce. And when you're in this bubble, you don't actually realize that you are mourning.
Yes.
You tend to be drinking a lot. You tend to be trying to hook up with as many girls as possible to try keep your mind busy. You are just an absolute mess. Only once you are out of this bubble, then you reflect back and you look and go, gee whiz, what the hell was that? That was not me.
Exactly.
Yes. How does one deal with that and trying to navigate and trying to actually not get into that 3-year bubble?
There's another chapter in the book which I call honest interventions, right? And honest interventions, I speak about the importance of therapy. A lot of us, especially in our Black culture, we have not been socialized in such a way that we need to go and seek therapy, right? And therapy doesn't only mean going to see a clinical psychologist. Therapy can be a counselor. Therapy can be seeing somebody at church, having people that you can actually speak to and express your pain to them. Who are safe. Safe spaces. That's what we need. When you do that, there's certain conversations that you're also going to find yourself engaging in that you wouldn't have engaged in by yourself. And when you do that, that's when then you start really dealing with the real issues that you're going through.
Okay, so
perfection. Because remember, you're not only just healing from what you experienced in that relationship, what you experienced in the relationship also brought on past traumas that you must deal with. When I left my marriage and I knew that it didn't work out because of my own fault, his fault, but there were also traumas from my past when I was a child that contributed to the marriage also breaking down, including him, So obviously there's a lot that goes on in that healing process. That's why it can even take a lifetime. It's only a matter of knowing how to manage the triggers. Yes. Yeah. So you get to a point where you know that, okay, now I'm being triggered here. And when you have a really good partner, they will also, and you've had the relevant conversations with that person, they will also know that, okay, baby, now you're being triggered. And this is how we deal with that trigger. So that's why I'm saying that you need to get to know yourself. You need to get to a point where you're saying, okay, my healing has come to a point of knowing myself, not necessarily that my mind and my heart has completely healed. Yes.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting thing. And do you think navigating through all of this, the key thing with it is talking to someone?
It is important to talk to someone, and the sad thing is that when you have just left a loved one, right?
And I'm not talking even from a clinical point of view, which you mentioned, but I'm talking even like maybe a close friend, family member, just to get it off your chest.
It is important to do that because nobody's ever meant to be alone, honestly speaking, right? That's why it's important to have the right support structures. So when you speak to other people, it's an outlet, right? For me, I'll also tell you what my therapy was. It was writing. because there was a
Okay.
point in which I wasn't able to actually utter the words of the pain that I was going through, right? A lot of the things that I went through, my friends, my parents, they found out in the book. So you need to,
Really?
yes. So you need to actually find a way in which you can actually speak out. Because
Journaling.
we tend to think that when we're going through pain as well, people know what we're going through. And it's not that way. You know, I mean, everybody's going through something. So to expect people to know what you're going through, it's a bit, you're expecting too much from people. So there has to be a certain way that when you need help, you need to let people know what it is that you're going through.
And it's interesting that,
You know,
or do you believe in
I
that?
still believe. You know what? I'm a girl that really loves love.
Okay.
So I do believe that there is somebody really out there for me that is meant for Phindi,
Okay.
and I am meant for that person.
Okay.
You know, so it's something that, you know, it's a bit controversial whether the soulmates do exist. I'm still the romantic type of girl.
But I believe you don't meet just one soulmate. I think you meet a couple through your life.
Well, I wouldn't know that. I still think I am yet to meet
To
my
meet them.
soulmate.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when I say that is because I honestly believe that there can only be that one person that you will truly connect with, and you can actually do a lifetime with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the journey to self-love. Often when a breakdown of a relationship happens, we're told, just focus on yourself, love yourself. But we're hardly ever given the tools to do that, right? What does coming to a place of mourning and then getting to love yourself again and appreciate your own company mean? But before, maybe ponder on it. A relationship expert, Phindile Yende, and we're speaking about surviving. In fact, coming to doing a little bit more than surviving, thriving after leaving a romantic relationship, whether it be a marriage or a long-term relationship. And just before the break, I asked you about coming to a place of self-love. But what tools does one use to get to that place?
You know, when it comes to self-love, it's easy for a person like me to say, go see a life coach, right? Because I did see a life coach and they tell you this is what you need to do, but not everybody is privileged enough to actually go and see a life coach, right? But when it comes to self-love, it needs time, Nompumelelo. As I said earlier on, that we tend to rush into a relationship after another without actually paying attention to ourselves and kind of like looking within and seeing what it is that we lack, looking at the past traumas we have suffered, looking at our mental state at that time, looking at our emotions as well. So all of those things, they require time. They need you to spend time on your own, because when you spend time on your own, you're able to pick up certain things about yourself, right? I mean,
Men in the mirror.
yes. So with me, with self-love, it even started with the simplest thing. When I left my marriage, I started working out. I never used to work out when I was still married, right? Because remember that as well, when we're in these relationships, we put these people somehow ahead of us.
Yeah.
And when there's children involved, it's even worse.
Even worse.
You
It's-
become the
it's
last
him,
person,
the
children, then
you're
it's
last.
you,
Yeah.
right? So I then started starting to work out. When I start working out, then I get to interact with people. I started reading even more, right? I always tell people that, you know, these days you don't even need to even just go and sit down with a psychologist. There are so many books out there that are actually that bring so much healing, that deal with your mental state, that deal with your emotional state. So during that time, you are even able to do the things that you'll find that I actually enjoying doing these things, and you never knew that when you're still with this person. And that's how self-love then starts to manifest in your life. And you know what I've also realized? When we date, when we get married to the people who are at the level of how we see ourselves,
100%.
right? So
100%.
the moment now you have
An elevated view of yourself.
an elevated view of yourself, then you're going to attract the person who is at that phase that you are at when it comes to your self-love. I can tell you now, I used to be so much of a giver, right? Where you just keep giving and giving and giving, and people
More than about that.
and people don't mind taking and taking and taking.
Listen, because
okay?
givers attract takers.
Takers, yes. But now I'm at a point where now
It's like abusers.
yes, yes. Now I'm at a point where now I know that if I give, I also expect somebody to give, to reciprocate.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the phase that I am at right now, you know. And I do not mind giving. I enjoy giving, but I now know when to stop and when to realize that now I'm being taken for a
I
ride.
love that.
Yes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with setting goals for
Okay.
yourself.
Okay.
Right? But those goals should not come from outside influences.
Okay.
Right? So we get married because at home they're saying you've reached a certain age, you need to get married, you need to have children. Set those goals based on yourself, what it is that you're able to accomplish. And if you're unable to accomplish those things, I mean, it's okay. You know, not everything is meant to happen at a specific time that has been set by society. We now live in a times where women are independent now. Women can do things for themselves. It's not like our mothers and our grandmothers, whereas we had to depend on a man to take care of us. So certain things we just need to actually say, okay, this realistically is what I can accomplish at this time. If it doesn't happen that way, we pick up the pieces, we start all over again. So I'm at that point now. Would I like to get married again? Absolutely yes. If I do not get married, it is still okay.
Thank you very much for saying that, and I'm very glad.
Person, and it's not all bad. It's not a man bashing book, because the moment people see yet you married him, they think I'm bashing men. No, absolutely not. There are good men in the book as well. And then the second book is called A Marriage Built on Lies. I was actually telling Nompumelelo that the content in A Marriage Built on Lies was actually meant to be in Yet You Married Him. But then I wasn't ready to actually put my story out at that time, because I just felt that I wasn't objective enough. I didn't want to write a book where as I was pointing fingers at my ex-husband. I wanted to be at a point where I'm able to also admit my wrongs. So A Marriage Built on Lies came after my divorce, and when I was going through therapy and on my journey of healing, and I was able to pen down what actually happened in my marriage and my own errors in that marriage, so people can also learn that we can't always be pointing fingers at the people we are married to and blaming them for what went wrong. What did we do wrong? What was wrong with us as well, to have allowed ourselves to go through certain things that we enjoy in these marriages. So that's what A Marriage Built on Lies is all about as well.
How long were you married for?
I was married for 6 years until my divorce, but I was actually in the marriage for 4 years, separated for 2 years.
Okay, so it's more or less like me.
I'm a 30-year-old. Questions should one be asking of
Well,
themselves?
you should
before?
honestly, first of all, I always say background is important, right? You need to know where this person comes from. You need to know his relationship with his mother, right? Because for me, the red flags were evident from the relationship he had with his mother, because the way a man treats you, it's how he actually feels about his own mother, right? And you also need to know his view on raising children. I had children with a man who didn't treat his children from his previous marriage well. What made me think
That he's going
that
to
he's going to treat mine well, right? You see, so we get lost in this love bubble, and we don't actually look at the realities that one is actually facing at that point in time. So you need to look at all those other things that when we get into this marriage, when I look at how I view marriage as Nompumelelo, perhaps from how your parents raised you, from what your belief systems are, your values are, is this person able to match that? Are they going to be aligned? Absolutely. Beings, right? We are okay with getting naked in front of each other physically, but we don't want to get naked in front of each other financially.
Financially, okay.
That's why it's very important, and I've said this before, you have to be transparent when it comes to money.
Absolutely.
You have to. If you're in a relationship, you've got to be transparent.
It's one of the questions that Nompumelelo would need to ask, but
Yeah.
it seems like she already knows when it comes to financial status of both parties involved.
Nice.
Yes. So that's what the chapter is actually about.
So, I mean, what is that question? Do you have money or are you broke? Oh.
No, it's things like, baby, are you blacklisted?
Yeah.
Baby, when you went to school, were you on a school loan? Do you still owe
Oh, the money. Because you need to know what you're getting into.
This
And
car that you drive, how long have you had it? How much do you still owe?
Have you paid
towards
for it?
Are you
Yeah.
still supporting your family?
Are you still supporting
in
your
ways that you're
family?
going to continue in the marriage?
Yes.
Because part of the budget, you've got to look at those things when you work the budget monthly together. Yeah, it's very
There is a
important.
certain portion going to mama.
Yeah.
Go Limpopo. You know
Yeah.
how Limpopo men are like, you know, bomma. Yes.
Mtsako.
So it's all those calculations that you ask when it comes to financial.
Guys,